Alright, I've gotten the clutch back together after losing one of the clips and getting the springs put back in. This is the wet clutch here, and this system actually goes, this is the aluminum cover that was pulled off the side of the motor, and you can see it's got a real nice smooth finish in here. It's got oil in it, and what happens is this thing rotates inside this. These flaps will actually come out due to centrifugal force, and it'll start to turn this. And on the other side of it is your shaft in your CVT box, so that's what causes it to turn. And so anyway, that'll fit in there once this cover is put back on. This right here is the shaft going up to the front differential here. This is your gasket. The only thing I can say about this is it's very thin. It's very easy to tear. When I took the cover off earlier, it tore a little bit around the stud, which wouldn't hurt anything, but I got another one anyway. This thing did have a little bit of a time coming off. I've heard people say they can pull them straight off with their hand. Some people need a two-jaw puller. I used a slide hammer type puller, and it came on off. One thing I want to note is this is the bearing that goes on here, and this is a directional bearing, and I made sure that when I pulled it off that I set it down like so, and then remembered how to put it back on there like that. You'll have a washer that goes in here after you slide it back on, and then you have a nut, and I would put some Loctite on it, and the threads are backwards. It still messes me up, but anyway, put a little Loctite on this and then torque it down to spec, and that will fasten this back together. Then you'll put the aluminum cover back on this, and I'll show you that. And alright, we're at the point where we're getting ready to put the cover back on where the wet clutch is located. The wet clutch is in there. It's I've added the EPI competition style springs. We've put back on this little bearing here. That's a directional bearing. I've torqued this down. I got some Loctite on it. Put the new gasket on there. Put a little copper spray gasket stuff on the back side of this to kind of help it stay in place. I only put it on one side so that hopefully if you ever have to pull it back off, it won't tear. It'll only stick to one side. So just wanted to point out that we had unhooked the CVT boots prior to taking this cover off, and this boot actually hooks to the plastic CVT cover, and this one actually hooks to the aluminum cover right here. I just wanted to show you the back side of this thing one more time before I put it back on. This is the clutch pads right here for the wet clutch, and they actually press against this kind of like a rear brake drum would work, and it rotates. And so I just made sure that I cleaned this off real good. Just took a sharp straight edge and just cleaned it off a little bit. Put the new gasket on there. I'm gonna put this on. I had one of my buddies on High Lifter tell me that, you know, one of the things you want to make sure is this gasket's lined up just right. If you try to stick a bolt in there, or if you kind of shift it a little bit when you put this cover on, it will tear easy and it will leak, and it's a pain in the butt to have to take all this back apart. So we'll continue the video later.